I wrote down 6:30.
Are there, with Gi Joe Ultimates, we know that the Python Patrol Destro and the Tiger Force Flint are hitting pre-order now.
Pre-order now. They'll be in warehouse next week.
So obviously there's a big pool available of repaints there, but also this is something, since you've introduced the Deluxes, I've always wondered, is there a possibility of deluxe format G.I. Joes?
There's definitely an opportunity there. It's a slightly trickier thing because classified is sold at mass retail, and most of the deluxe have been going into the back shelf of Target. So we've been discussing it, but trying to figure out how to word it properly. But the initial feeling is sort of like they wouldn't want something on shelf that would compete with classified at the same price point and the same scale in the same retailer. So while Ultimates have been fine because we're working at a different price point and a different distribution model, so it's not showing up at the same retailer. We've talked a lot about the opportunity for that to happen in the future, but we haven't landed on when and where that can happen yet.
And that was mainly the point of the deluxes, was to get them accessible and
to get them down to a price point where you kind of have what we describe often as you have collectors and fans. Collectors buy fan product as well as collector product, but fans don't necessarily buy collector product. So you've got a guy that walks into a Target and is willing to buy, Lion-O, for example, at $34.99. I just want a blister on a card. I don't care about anything else. And then you have another guy that's like, no, I need it to be like this. If that hand is even this far off, it's wrong. Everything's got to be perfect. Those are two different people. And so really Deluxe was like, how do we bring the excitement we have at the collector level down to something that a more casual fan can buy and be excited about?
a little more of an impulse buy.
It's just that we're at Joe Fest, so we're talking to people that care about the nerdy details, and the reality is that there's 10 times as many people that I just want Snake Eyes and Cobra Commander, maybe a Destro. I don't care about anybody else. There's far more of those people. If you think about the people that you may know that have collections where it's like they've got an Optimus, a Megatron, a this, a that, and that's what they like. It's more, how do we get those people excited about what we're doing,
and possibly hook them into the rest.
Hey, that's a nice little side hustle if we can get it. But I would love to be doing more with that. I think really with Ultimates we have to be very sort of careful, simply because Classified is such a good line and it is so robust, and most people literally can only afford one 6-inch scale line at a time, and most people have chosen Classified.
Let me tell you something. I give Super 7 so much shit. I love some of their stuff, but I give them a ton of shit. And a lot of people give them shit. Everybody gives Brian Flynn shit. But then when Brian Flynn talks, I'm like, the dude makes sense. And he seems very aware of what's happening out there. We've talked about this before, especially when it comes to like the Marvel stuff, right? We were talking about Marvel earlier today, and if you don't have casuals engaged, you're going to fail. Hardcores in any nerd space generally are not big enough to maintain a franchise. You need the casuals who come in, drop some money, and leave. There's way more of those than the people who come in and drop money every single time or watch every single release. So, we've mentioned it before when it comes to, some of these figures where it's like, you need to, it was with the Power Ranger line recently, how the Power Ranger line, the new one, is priced so low, they're hoping that it's just casual people who are like, oh, it's a Green Ranger figure and it looks similar to one as a kid. I'm going to buy that. That's what they're hoping for. Because they know, sorry. That's why I usually don't do beer on the show. They know that the hardcore is going to buy it no matter what. But there's not enough hardcores out there to maintain a whole line. So that was a great question that person had. I'm glad I remembered to bring this up. Thank you, Dada, for bringing up Super 7. it's a great question as to would you do GI Joe Deluxe like you've been doing the other Deluxe, but he's going to be competing with Hasbro, who owns a license, who licenses GI Joe out to him so he can make stuff, but they would also be, you know, allowing him to compete against them. And while it might seem cool, right, to ego and be like, all right, I think my 6-inch figure will sell better than your 6-inch figure, there's no way he's going to be able to get the price point to match. And he's fighting for the same hardcores, and those hardcore people are not going to be satisfied with collecting exclusively deluxe figures. They're going to want ultimate figures. So it's almost a lose-lose. It's essentially a lose-lose. So great answer by Brian Flynn. And that's why I get mad with certain things. I'm like, he seems so aware. And every time Brian Flynn talks, I'm like, it's like McFarlane. Same thing with McFarlane. They talk and I'm like, man, that shit makes sense. But then when I see like the price points or the releases or the types of stuff that's getting released, I'm like, where did that come from? Is that the same person making those decisions? I don't know. But he's right. You know, and that's why Hasbro, that's why they have that, like, I forget the name that they called it, but it's like essentially a legacy line where they want to do the John Cena thing, the Roman Reigns thing. They want a line that is just Captain America, Spider-Man, and Iron Man, where they'll always be on the shelf when you go to a store. And it'll be like repaints. It'll be a couple, maybe a slight retool, but mostly repaints, limited accessories on the shelf. A whole shipper of just Captain America. The problem, though, is that it's the same price as the standard Marvel Legend figures. So a Marvel Legends collector is not going to look at those that comes with less things and say that's worth the price. If anything, I'm going to buy that extra figure because when it's on sale, maybe I'm missing a Captain America or a Spider-Man. But because it's so close in price to the actual thing, you're not going to get any new casuals. For this test to work, it's got to be priced lower than your collector line. So Brian Flynn knows what he's talking about. But the decisions that get made sometimes, I'm just like, ugh, how do we get there? Yeah, he's done his homework. Yeah. Super 7's bottom line must be the most conservative ever. I tell you, I think their issue is that they don't own any of these licenses. Everything that they're making is them acquiring the license from somebody else to make the figure. Where with Hasbro, they own Transformers, they own G.I. Joe, so they can do whatever they want. Disney owns Star Wars and Marvel, so they license out, and Hasbro's like, yeah, we just need to hold on to it for visibility here. But Super 7 doesn't own anything. It's all them acquiring licenses, and that's the problem. Along with, I don't know why they still have brick and mortar, even though I'm not trying to have people lose their jobs, but it's like one of those, it is what it is. But Brian Flynn, man, smart guy.